very special edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are on site, on location at what you all know as the Lally Complex, and we are here with John and Laura Lally, and of course myself, Dan Tortora, here on Wake Up Call. And we get to be in a recruiting room right now, which is pretty nice. So,
Yeah.
first and foremost, welcome to the show to you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, I know that in this world of everything that you've done for Syracuse University, there's a lot to unpack and get into when we see the Lally name. But I'd like to go all the way back to kind of how this got started. And John, I'll start with you and your journey. Why be in a world to give back? Why pay it forward? Why has that been something that's meant something to
So
you?
how many hours do we have?
As long as you want. We'll extend the show for you.
So it actually goes back to my recruitment here. And I came out of high school and like most offensive linemen graduating at that time from high school, a little bit, needed a little bit of discipline, let's say, and ultimately chose Syracuse as the place I wanted to make my home. My 5 years here were very challenging 5 years, for both from an athletics and a university perspective, but actually set the basis of the success in industry. I took a lot of what I learned here and carried it into industry, and built a engineering business out of the Buffalo area, PCB, based on a combination of athletics and academics, and built it from 10 million to 200 million, and ultimately sold it for 580 million. So the start of what I attribute to my success came out of Syracuse University. So it was easy for me when I retired to look at Syracuse as a place that I wanted to give back. The interesting part of that story is I was most interested in the football side, because that's where I made my home, and started to talk with a individual who was also a teammate of mine, Bob Arkilpain, and he did a great job upselling from the football ops center, which we're sitting in right now, to the complex as a whole. I had two kids, a boy and a girl. The first place he took me was to the girls' Olympic sports, and they were quite honestly awful. And we sat there and looked at it and said, well, we've got the capacity. Let's look at potentially upgrading from the football ops center to the complex as a whole. So a lot of the credit, I guess, goes to my daughter and her sports career, because if it wasn't for her, I'm sure I would have never had a chance to see those facilities.
And I appreciate the story and obviously kind of the run through the journey of getting to where we are today. Laura, for you and I have gotten to speak off the air and get to know each other and get to know where you have seen yourself through the years and how you've kind of seen the development of everything that you've done together. So I'd love to get your thoughts about why giving back has been so important to you, and just what you've seen in the why for you.
The why for me, well, to piggyback on what John said, going through the facilities of all sports, not just football, that's obviously our passion. But, I was an athlete in college. Caitlin played lacrosse at Geneseo. Our son played lacrosse at St. John. So we kind of look at it from a parent's perspective, and wanted to have a holistic approach when we donated to Syracuse. And from the giving perspective, we didn't want to be just donors at Syracuse. Everywhere we live, we get engaged with the community, and it was really important for us to extend ourselves to the community through the charity work that we do. Um, you know, Challenger Baseball, Maureen's Hope, Unified Athletics, Special Olympics, juvenile diabetes. Our daughter is a juvenile diabetic. So all of those aspects of our life are important, just as important as Syracuse University. But in a community like Syracuse, um, it meant more. Both of us went to school in Central New York. Um, we see a lot of ourselves in this community. Um, some of my best memories as a kid is my dad hauling us from Buffalo to Syracuse to a basketball game, being 10 years old and wanting popcorn and hot dogs and all those things, and that can be expensive. And we wanted to make sure everything that we did with the community was free. It was for families. It concentrated in areas of with kids at risk. So the communities in Buffalo and Syracuse are very similar.
Yeah, we wanted to look at our vision, not just Syracuse athletics,
Yeah.
but to athletes of all ages, all abilities, specifically supporting the special needs athletes. So it's not we're only interested in how well it works at the college level. We've broadened our support across the community as a whole.
Which is where the Lally zone comes in, which we started with just football. Originally, we have 30 season tickets, and we give them to various groups like the Boys and Girls Club, or like I'd mentioned, Maureen's Hope,
Yeah.
Golisano Hospital, depending on what audience we want to reach. But now we've extended it to, last year was women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, women's basketball. We do a lot of work with Felicia. She's awesome. And it's been so well received in the community that we have extended it to Mets games. Um, we have a whole group of alumni that work with us and get tickets out, hundreds of tickets out to kids and families and youth groups. And it's a great way for us to reach out to the community without having to be, I guess, in front of it all. We really want it to be more about kids and families and less about us. So.
Well, and you've both described, all that help and that care for the community. And Laura, you spoke on the fact of not just wanting it to be a name on the side of the building.
Right.
And I'd love for you both, and Laura, I'll start with you, why that's so important that when you see different things that happen in a community or at a school, that it's just naming rights and we see a name and nobody even really knows that person or sees that person. It's just kind of a stamp on the side of the building. It's a donation, it's giving, but there's not a lot of community engagement and involvement. You've said we don't want to be just a name. We want you to see us and we want to actually help people that need our help.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we've talked at great length about this. With those naming rights comes a responsibility to the community. And I've mentioned we don't like the word philanthropists.
Right.
Because to me, that doesn't sound like you're engaged. It sounds like you're giving money and then you're removed from the change in the community. And for us, it's getting to know the people that are making those changes. It's getting to participate in a lot of the events that help kids, and getting to know the parents and getting to know their mission and how can we help develop that and help in any way we can. Always keeping the focus on the organization, on the kids, on the mission, and making sure everything is free and families can enjoy it, and make it special just like our parents made it special for us.
Yeah, it's simple for both of us. The name on the building's nice, and it makes an impact at the university level. And what both of us believe that's great, but we want to make an impact in other areas of the community. Such as Challenger baseball is a big one for us, and they wanted to put together their Field of Dreams, and looking to have to fundraise. How much it was?
They have an anchor sponsor of $1 million. He's a local guy that's done amazing things, and he lives in another city. I think I don't want to say where he lives because he's out of state,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get it wrong. But they had this anchor sponsor for $1 million, which is huge. He was reading the paper one day and was inspired by it, and called Dom from Challenger Baseball and said, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million." And we said, well, we went in for over 400,000 so they could build their Field of Dreams. And it's
making a difference.
It is making a huge difference. All of these kids that would never have the opportunity to play baseball, and their parents would never have the opportunity to see them shine or build the friendships that all parents that have their kids in athletics get to have. And it's really changed our lives.
Yeah, we love going over and watching them participate. A couple times a year we'll go over just to watch the kids at how excited they are, and getting a chance to run the bases, and it's a special day, and it just continues to reinforce to us how we're making a difference with people that really appreciate it.
Well, and that making a difference approach, right? I call it the positive domino effect. That you want to create something, create an experience, to have a connection with someone that can pay off, that they help someone else, and then that helps somebody else, and then we get to a point where the community is better. You keep saying the word community, and John, I'll start with you with this. Community partner versus philanthropist. Community partner, being here, being ingrained, being a part of Central and Upstate New York, even when you're not physically here, to make sure that there is that positive domino effect. Just what you can say to why that's so important, to not simply write a check and walk away, but to feel that you are making a difference and that you have an opportunity to not only change one person's life, but that that person having a positive interaction with you could hopefully help somebody else.
Well, this is our community, right? So, you know, my house is not in Syracuse. When I retired, one of the stipulations of my retirement, and Laura knows this, was I'm not going to shovel snow anymore. I shoveled snow for 60 some years, and when it came time, I was not going to shovel snow. So I landed in a place that I don't have to shovel snow. But this is our home. This is our community. Yeah. This is the place that established my career and left indelible mark on my history and my passion. So we do consider this home, and having a chance to influence, you know, the place that's most special to you was something we both believe strongly in.
I agree, and I think the cornerstones of our value system is always giving back. I mean, that's not everyone's, that's not everyone's goal, and donating and getting involved is very personal. So for us, the people that have inspired us through our whole lives and formed who we are the same kind of mentors that we learn that giving back to other people is where you find your fulfillment. I mean, we're not, it's hard to get us to do an interview, you know that. And our fulfillment doesn't come from internet likes and being in front. Our fulfillment comes from being engaged with people that are doing meaningful things in the community and helping others, because that will inspire, you know, the 10-year-old today that was John Lally, remembering going to arts and crafts classes or sporting events with his aunt who has special needs, were moments that formed his life. And same with me. So it reinforces the values we were raised with.
And when you look at those foundational pieces, when we talk about the Lally Foundation, what are those pillars, the foundation of what you want to do?
You take that.
What our mission is?
Yeah.
Yeah, just really, and I know that, you know, you and I have gotten to obviously speak on what that is, but we've covered a lot of the pieces, but what you think are those pillars that keep it going?
Your mission.
Well, our mission is always to provide meaningful engagement and opportunities for families and children, with an emphasis on special needs. We want to serve children and families that are typically underserved.
Yeah.
And give them opportunities, whether it is educational opportunities with our scholarship programs around the nation, or if it's something as simple as free tickets to a lacrosse game, you know, with their lacrosse youth team. Or is it working with connecting people with the right people in the community to help amplify their message? I'll use Maureen's Hope as a great example. They do a program called Beads of Courage. It's working with terminally ill children and their families. And every time a child goes through a treatment in a cancer center, they get a bead for a necklace. And there's some kids that have thousands of them on a long string. And she wanted to reach the football program and inspire the football team. So we were able to remove those obstacles and have her come in and speak to the football team here at Syracuse. And Fran opened up a practice to some of the children that are in remission and their families, and really took them under his wing. And it was a beautiful experience. And then they all came to the football game together, and the football players carried their beads of courage on the field during the game and wrote letters to these children and inspired so many other people to get involved. And it has this impact of, you inspire one person and then they inspire 20. And then before you know it, they inspire 2,000 people. And it's a whole movement. And we get to be part of that. And that's very special to us.
The other thing about the foundation that's important is we don't raise money. All the funds that are donated through the foundation are directed by us. It's our personal funds.
Yeah.
It's not, we're trying to raise funds to direct somebody else's investment into these different charities. These are charities that are important to us or special to us that we've decided to invest in.
Yeah, so we direct and fund all of our giving.
Yeah.
So to add to what John said, there's great foundations in the area that raise money for different charities, and that's terrific. But also, our name is on a building, and we've been very fortunate. So we're not about to ask anybody to donate to us, and we don't accept donations. We don't solicit donations. Everything is 100% funded by our own personal money.
And I think, like you said, that direct contact.
Yeah.
And that it's coming from you, it's your time, it's your money, it's your energy, and it's from things that have mattered to you over time. Because I was going to, when you talk about different places that you've given to and special needs, when you bring that up, growing up on Court Street on the north side, less than 12 minutes from the Dome, there was a home for people with special needs. And I remember to this day coming home and the way the school bus would come through our community right before it got to my house. It would stop at the Big M, which is now Diamond Market. And one of the gentlemen from the home would stand there every day and he would wave to us. And during COVID, and then another one would watch me play basketball in my driveway. He'd just stop and watch. And all these years later during COVID, I'm in Wegmans and I'm walking through the aisle going to get something, and I walk by a group of people, and I turn to my left and I see that he's still alive and well, and here he is during COVID getting his groceries. And moments like that made me feel good. But like you said about John at 10 years old and your experience with special needs and people within a community that needs to be uplifted and needs to be put in the forefront, I felt that as a kid too, around the same age. And so this is very personal for you both.
Yeah.
And it's a great story that you just shared with us, because when we were growing up, now John and I are we're older than you are.
Some of us are even more older than you are.
When we were growing up, there were no unified athletics. There was, I think, Special Olympics had just started, or popularity had just started, but there wasn't anything called unified athletics. But now there's unified basketball, there's unified bowling, they're starting unified volleyball. So those programs provide an opportunity for kids of all skill sets in their school with their classmates to play basketball and to contribute to the team spirit of their school. And it is one of the most inspiring and rewarding programs that you could ever get involved in. And we do a lot with Ari from Liverpool High School,
Special
Olympics.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy,
Yeah.
and he's opened up a whole new world for us on that front with Special Olympics. And he's so dedicated and committed to the mission. And we just had one this summer.
So that program that you're talking about at Frontier High School,
Yeah.
we were so moved by it, and the kids were so excited for the award they were getting. The next year we got them warm-ups. So they all got a warm-up code, so that they had the same gear that the other students in the school had. And needless to say, they were pretty excited about it.
So Dan, you'll love this story. We have a scholarship for my dad at this high school, and it's one of our scholarships.
Over in Buffalo.
And it's in Buffalo. So we went through the whole athletic awards night, and all the athletes are coming through, all very, very impressive, and they're all pretty collected when they go and get their trophy or whatever it is, right? And then the last award is for the unified athletics, and it brought the whole house down because they call their names and they are jumping and they're that spirit of when you were a kid and you're with your teammates, excited, and it made the whole event. And we thought, wow, it would be great if the entire event was dedicated to unified athletics. It was very, very special night and kind of solidified our lifelong dedication to unified athletics. So.
Well, and that's I mean, you talk to different people that have gained money over time, and some people that have it want to buy mansions. They want to buy a bunch of cars. They want to get an island for themselves. You know, they want to kind of spend the money frivolously, and then there's you've made money, you've worked hard, and you want to give back. Why have you chosen to do that? You know, some people, they say some people stay rich because they hoard it, right? They hold it in. And other people, when you have gained what you've gained in your life and what you've been able to do, you turn around in a foundation and say, we want to give directly. We want to give to others. And like you said, it comes from you. It's not soliciting somebody to donate. There's no fundraising. You are the fundraiser. So John, starting with you in this piece, why give of everything you work for?
That's a great question. And there's not a real, at least in my belief, there's not a real clear answer to it. I think it's one of those intangible, the people that get it, get it. Yeah. And why one person does and the next guy doesn't, I mean, I don't know. I'm blessed that I fall into the category of someone that gets it, and over the years, it's kind of, we've always done it. Now, obviously, not to the level that we're currently at, but the number of charities that we've donated to long before the big sale of the company.
Endless. It feels like we've been engaged with as many as you can imagine. And it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and admittedly, you know, it's $1,000 or a couple $1,000, but in both of our worlds, that's something we've always done. So it's become kind of a second nature thing. And I quite honestly don't know why. I don't know, maybe greed or whatever. Why somebody that has been successful misses the importance of being able to give back.
I agree with John. I think we've always done it, but you know, now we structure it a lot more. I mean, on average, we're doing about 2 million annually, and we're very intentional about our giving, depending on what the community needs. But I do think it goes back to how we were raised, what values were reinforced. And I think also our experiences in life. I mean, John and I worked for everything that we have, and I don't begrudge anybody to spend their money however they want to spend it, cars, mansions, whatever, live your life. I think that's great too. But I think just instinctively, John and I, the way that we're wired, we're both looking for opportunities to help.
Well, when we sit here in this room and we think about everything that you're doing for Syracuse University and for football, you obviously had to form this team first. So, Laura, I'll go to you with this. I would love to hear the story. Let's see if John can get it right. But how did this team come together with you both deciding that this was going to be the tightest team that you have?
We have hilarious stories that are probably inappropriate.
I was going to say, I'm not so sure. I know it, but I'm not so sure I'm going to share it. So,
well, I mean, obviously we made the decision about doing the 25 million because of we wanted to impact all athletics. But I mean, it all started back in 2016, 2017.
Let's just say a pig roast.
Yeah. Oh, how we got together? Or
yeah, I think that's where he was going.
No, I think how we started with Syracuse.
Well, how you both got together.
Yeah, see, I read that one right. Let's just leave it.
The story of the true team.
Let's just leave it as she crashed a pig roast.
Yes.
That I was living on Lake Erie back outside of Buffalo, and we had stag type of pig roast, which was really predominantly all guys. And one of the guys extended an invitation to Laura and one of her friends, unbeknownst to the rest of us, So we're all sitting there.
I was at a baby shower like 12 doors down from the pig roast
Oh,
with the
okay.
girls from work, and they invited he said, "Oh, there's a big barbecue happening down the street." And so I thought, okay, we'll go down the street to this barbecue, like a normal barbecue, I'm thinking, and we're all dressed from this event.
Shower.
And we arrived and we quickly it was just a booze fest and a pig roast booze fest that we were out of place.
And out of fairness, you stayed. You did
We
not
stayed,
leave.
we
So,
had a blast, and then John and I got married. Um,
well,
but
there's a little bit in
there's
between
a little
there,
bit in
but
between, but the short of it. Then we sold our company in 2016, and then we were sitting around one day, and Bob Arkleplane is a great buddy of John's. We became close
teammate.
friends.
He's a teammate of mine.
He was working in Cincinnati at the time, and he came to visit us with Andy Hurley, who used to work here as well. And they came down to Florida. It's freezing cold in Cincinnati. They wanted any excuse to come down and visit us. And we said, we've been waiting for somebody from Syracuse to call us since we sold the company, and nobody has. Bob's like, you're in luck because I'm going to hit you up for a donation. And then we had Lally Palooza at our house. Syracuse.com reported on that. That was when
I'm trying to start to re-engage. So
Trying to re-engage
the development
alumni.
group went through a period where they weren't very active.
Yeah.
And it really kind of hurt the athletics program at the university. And when Bob
Yeah.
Arkleplane came here, he started to try and resurrect the alumni engagement. And both Laura and I decided, well, let's see what we can do in our teammate era. So they codenamed the first
Lally Palooza.
alumni fundraising type thing.
The funniest part.
Are you going to talk about Gruden?
The funniest part about John Gruden was there. John
met
Wildhack brought
John,
him.
yeah.
He's hilarious.
Yeah,
But
John's fun.
the funniest part about it was, all right, so Dino's there. All of our friends are there. A lot of the past players. We had some teammates, former teammates that live in Tampa. It was a big event, and John Gruden, wrote a check for $10,000, and so I'm like, all right, I'll match it, right? Well, an hour before, outside drinking beers with Bob Arkleplane and John Wildhack, John had already committed $1 million just to resurface the football field. So I said, oh my God, Bob, I didn't even mention to John that I was going to match Gruden's donation for 10 grand. And Bob said, well, that's good because your husband just committed $1 million.
So it was kind of funny. One of the offensive linemen blew his knee out on one of the awful practice fields over behind behind the
It was
complex.
really bad.
And the field was in awful shape, and we sat there, and being an offensive lineman, I'm like, oh man, that's just not right. So that was my first commitment to the program was, well, let's refinish the one practice field. So it only cost me $1 million. It didn't cost me $1,010,000, just for the record.
But when we talked about what we wanted to do in the future, and the deal took years to get where we wanted to be, but that never would have happened without the key people in place. And the key people were the Chancellor, John Wildhack,
Chancellor's awesome,
and the team. And you can't find better support and leadership. The Chancellor is amazing.
He'll probably get mad at me for saying this, but everyone, and I read some of the social media stuff, and everyone kind of criticizes the Chancellor because he doesn't fit the stereotype of a Chancellor that's committed to athletics. We have one of the best chancellors in the ACC in his commitment to athletics. He leads the group in the ACC of chancellors, and his commitment to athletics is exceptional. So when you're reading whatever garbage is showing up on social media, I'll tell you, there's nothing further from the truth.
Well, and I've had so many of these conversations recently I think 3 in one day, about perception is reality versus reality is reality. And I'm always a proponent for real is real.
Yeah.
And they talk about, your reputation is what people think of you, your character is who you are.
Yeah.
So when you say that he's leading in athletics, and let's put all this other stuff aside because you've spoken with him, you've been around him, What can you say about Kent Syverud and why you believe he is leading in athletics and why you believe it's different than what people think?
So I'll tell an anecdotal story. We're playing Miami, and we all know how that ended up. And I come I was sitting in with John Wildhack at the time, and the Chancellor's out in the hallway, pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I said, Chancellor, what's the matter? John, I don't know. I just can't take it. I said, we got this one. I said, we're okay. We got this. This game, we got this one. So if anybody that goes to that level of anxiety over a football game is committed to athletics.
Yeah, I don't think that's how you typically, because I had somebody ask me this, like, am I a Buffalo Bills fan? Now, my team, I wanted my own team, and obviously you have a connection in Florida. My team's been Jacksonville since they came out in '95, but I'm surrounded by Buffalo Bills fans, and so a good friend of mine, Jeff Cook, he had said to me, he was like, and there was a bunch of Bills fans around, and we were at Pizza Man out in Beeville, and he kind of looked like he was going to get emotional. He's like, well, when we don't play you, like you appreciate us, right? and I was like, yeah. He's like, you're like on our side, but like not that game. And so a couple of years ago, when the field goal was missed,
Yep.
and I'm standing after Tyler Bass missed it, I felt like I was going to throw up. My stomach dropped, and I just felt like I was going to cry at the same time that I felt sick. I went over, I put my hand on his back. I was like, if you ever wondered if I cared. So I can understand the pacing and like that being a story.
Yeah.
But Laura, in your case, when it comes to Chancellor Syverud, why do you believe, outside of that story, why he's so committed and why maybe we don't know the full story about who he is to this community and to the school?
Well, I will say we're surrounded by Bills fans too.
Being a Buffalo, yeah.
Our entire family, we've been Bills fans forever.
So the only problem
generations
with being
and
a Bills
generations.
fan was Rob Gronkowski's dad and I were college roommates, Gordy.
Yeah.
So when New England signed Rob, and now I'm got this roommate and his son playing for New England and living in Buffalo, and my loyalty to the Bills caused a lot of internal conflict in my life.
Yeah, but Rob redeemed himself when he
Came to
down to
Tampa,
Tampa,
yeah.
so everybody was
and
back
and
on.
won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly,
Yes, that's
exactly.
fair.
But
Okay, so go ahead.
from my perspective, like any of our investments, so Syracuse is our biggest investment next to real estate. But we both come from corporate America, and we both spend extensive amounts of time looking at investments and where we want our money to be. So we looked at the leadership team of Syracuse and we did a deep dive.
Yeah.
So we feel like we know the team members in athletics. We feel like we know and trust with our money and with our investment the individuals that are leading the charge. So on paper, the chancellor is ideal. But what wins you over about him, and I think me personally, is he really is kind of it's a dichotomy. You think he's going to be one way, he's very studious and he's very reserved, but then when you start to talk to him, he's so down to earth and he's an excellent listener and is so knowledgeable about a lot of the cutting edge problems or compelling programs in athletics. I guess you would think you're talking to an athletic director. And he's just, if you're looking from an investment standpoint, he gives you all the confidence in the world that where you're investing your money is going to be guarded and sound.
And like you said, you brought up, you would think that he's an athletic director to the athletic director of John Wildhack. And to your point of people on social media having opinions and not really knowing, I would love, and I've had the opportunity to get to know his sons as well through the world of sports. So, Laura, to start with you on this, just what John Wildhack has done leadership-wise and why, when you said taking a deep dive and looking at the leadership of Syracuse, why he was another important piece as to a place that you want to give to.
Oh, yeah, he was critical. He was with us every step of the way with our donation, along with Bob and along with the chancellor. But, John really was, daily in contact with us. He has to have very thick skin. He, like anybody in a position where you have to make tough decisions, you need to have that. Um, he is pragmatic. He is methodical. He is thoughtful. He's incredibly sharp, and he recognizes when it's time to put people. He recognizes who's going to make him stronger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess Fran is a great example. I mean, what he's done with Fran and working with the football program, I give him a lot of credit for that. Um, I think you would agree. He
Well, I
works.
give him all the credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, he works. His team works nonstop, and that comes from the top down. I mean, that doesn't just happen. He's got people in the right positions. He's got people mentoring others to go to the next level. We both worked in leadership development our whole careers. We worked with thousands and thousands of leaders, and um, John's done a great job from our perspective on a lot of tough things that people don't see.
Well, the negotiation with ESPN on that
Mhm.
ACC contract
That's a great example.
is a huge example. Who sees who sees any of that, right?
Yeah.
It's things the things that he brings to the table that a lot of the community will never see, and he's very instrumental. And again, as the chancellor has been in a lot of the I'm going to use the term turmoil in the ACC, trying to get that whole thing settled out. John played a very integral role. And without John, I don't know whether we would have ultimately done the
25
deal.
million?
Yeah, he was exceptional in his ability to work with us and get the different issues resolved that we had. And take a look at athletics of what, 7, 8 years, 9 years ago
Yeah.
to where we're at today. Well, John gets a lot of credit, for the improvements on the athletic side. We all know there's still improvements that we need to make, but he's done a great job getting us to this point, and hope that we can continue to keep the momentum going.
And he really has rebranded. You mentioned 7, 8, 9 years ago in athletics. He's rebranded the athletics department. And a lot of the alumni that we know personally that were never engaged before,
Yeah.
it helps when you have a winning football program. And, Fran is unbelievable. I mean, that's an understatement of the century. But, a lot of the alumni that were refusing to get involved, he chipped away at them and he chipped away at them and built their trust. And now we've got a lot of engaged alumni from your generation, and people coming up and asking how they can help, which wasn't happening before, and that is largely in part to
Well, it's a
John's vision.
John's decision to bring Fran in,
Mm-hmm.
admittedly, was a little bit of a risk because Fran didn't have the head coaching or coordinator experience, but he was so strong in his recruiting and his relationship with his team that if you look at what did we finish, seventh, ninth, something like that, ranked recruiting class when
Yeah, a lot higher than you're used to here.
yeah, absolutely. And I like Dino, and quite honestly, I'm not sure I would have let Dino go because he made that bowl appearance, or we ended up making that bowl game, and it's like my expectation at the time was just make a bowl. If you get us to a bowl game each year, I mean, I can be happy with that. Well, under Coach Fran, and you were at the ribbon cutting when
Yeah.
Chancellor gets up and says, well, he wants to see a top 20 program, and I'm kind of sitting in the chair, kind of giggling to myself, going, well, I can one up that. I'm going to get up and say, well, I want to win an ACC championship.
Yeah.
And then Coach France, and they're going, well, geez, you guys don't set your goals high enough. I want to win a national championship. And, that mentality that he brings to this program, he's not going to be happy with an ACC champion. He's not going to be happy until we're in a national championship game and win it. Now, I might jump to his side because that's a pretty impressive goal to have. So
My biggest concern was John was unscripted. I'm like, oh, John's going up there and unscripted on a big emotional day.
well, this is another unscripted day for me.
Yeah,
so you got to be
But I
careful.
told you and there's no Jerome Smith, who made it to 1,000 yards here at Syracuse, wore number 45 and wore it well, and I still see little kids wearing 45, and it
Yeah.
makes me happy because he's an incredible human being. But Jerome said to me one time, he said, "You never have a notebook." And I said, "Yeah, because I do this crazy thing called listen."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well," he's like, "I wouldn't talk to you. Like, I don't like when people bring that." And I said, "Well, to me, in order to have a real conversation, I want people watching and listening to feel like they're sitting on a couch
Yeah.
with who I'm talking with and with me."
Yeah.
And we're literally sitting on couches and here today to have this conversation. And to your point about Fran and the expectation, I always keep in my mind, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And there was such a limitation here at Syracuse, and this is my hometown. Like I said, I grew up 10 minutes away. So my parents are still here. My grandparents were here when they were alive. And I came back here and to open my company physically in Syracuse and not in any other city. So
So you're still shoveling snow then, right?
I am still shoveling, but Florida is my second home, and we built a second hub there for my company. And I do get down there. I got down there 4 times in the last 3 months, so I'm very grateful to Florida. But yes, I will say I don't like shoveling snow at all. But to the point of having these expectations, I didn't want my city to be a bowl team. I didn't want to just get to 6-6 and be 500, be mediocre. It's the only sport, college or pro, where over 60% of teams make it into the postseason.
Yeah.
You can be 5-7, you can be 4-8 one year, and that wasn't good enough. I want somebody here that wants to win a national championship. And because of the Lally Complex, because of the money that's been invested, because of not just the money invested, but what they've done with the money to the facilities and to this new performance center that we're sitting in, to the experience of it, to walking into the cafeteria, to seeing the public spaces, to seeing that and this is something I feel like nobody talks about, every single position has a room. There's an O-line room, there's a tight end room, there's a quarterback room, and you get to see on the wall coming in, and when you're physically in the room, who some of those quarterbacks are, who some of those running backs are, who some of those O-linemen are.
Yeah.
I love that there's offense, defense, special teams meeting space. There's a meeting space for everybody, but then there's individual rooms where you get to know that you're walking and sitting in a place where all of these different people have come from throughout history. So it's not just the performance center that your name is on, it's what's in it. It's the pools that can move for like what's going on with your body and what you need. I mean, honestly, and I can attest to this, I've been in NFL locker rooms, I've been in NBA locker rooms, I've been in Major League Baseball clubhouses. Syracuse's football locker rooms are professionally made and put together. And John was so excited. He's like, "Do you know that every single locker has its own like temperature, and you can do different things
It's
here? So when
sick.
guys come in
It
and they're
is
sweaty,
sick. Yeah.
and he's like, and you don't smell it. And so there's all of these intricate pieces. And I know I'm being long-winded, but I can't say enough about this performance center. And there was actually one part that Tyler brought me into, and Tyler goes, "Hey, we don't know if anybody else has a room like this. Don't talk about it." And they brought me in the room, and there's all these things moving in the room. And so, I mean, to really get the experience of a recruit, and then to go down the long hallway of Hall of Fame. The first room when you come in here.
Yeah.
But then to go down the Hall of Fame, to look at everyone that's been drafted, to all the teams that have drafted players from Syracuse. There's not enough to be said about every intricate piece of this performance center, and what you've donated as a family has been an integral part of how Syracuse is going to compete in the ACC and in the country, to Fran's point of wanting to win a championship.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
when we talk about what we've donated to this facility, there are incredible donors involved in this project. The Bill family, he blocked for Jim Brown. Colby Clark, who runs the football NIL with Joe Burton. The families that have made donations of 4 million, 8 million, 10 million, 15 million. You look at these groups and you don't really hear about them at all, but they're there, and everyone feels the same way. Our facilities people at Syracuse are second to none. Pete Sala and his team are
Maury.
top notch. And I think the one message that we would want people to receive is if you have the ability to give, and not everybody does, and it doesn't matter the level, but a lot of people say, yeah, I played at Syracuse and I gave my blood, sweat, and tears on the field. Well, we appreciate that. John blocked for Joe Morris.
Yeah.
But it takes more than blood, sweat, and tears. It takes money. And, just like NIL, it is the reality. And if you can give, and we'll never ask people to give if we don't give ourselves. Um,
Well, it's an individual, it's all an individual decision that they have to
100%.
decide what the value that they got from the experience here and how it impacted their career, good or bad. And then it's an individual decision. For me, it's very obvious. It was a tremendous outcome, so it was very easy for me to make the decision to give back.
And when we look at, I mean, the Lally Complex in and of itself, I mean, you grow up and you see Manley Fieldhouse, and now your name is on this old Manley Fieldhouse, and then we see pieces that are on the other side between Mello and what Manley Fieldhouse was to where we're sitting right now. It's not just a building, and it's not just one thing. It's your donation and what you've given over $20 million to give to this community, to give to this school, and to see the Lally Complex.
Yeah.
And to know that there is so many things that can happen for football, but for athletics in general. And like you said, you have a love for the Olympic sports, you have a love for, athletics in and of itself. And for me, sitting with you here today, I mean, I want to say thank you that not only have you donated your time and energy and your funds to what's happening in this community, but when we hear complex, it is a multi-purpose, multifaceted donation that has so many layers to it. And I really, like you said, to mention all these other families that are a part of everything as well. But to see what you've done with this complex, I want to say thank you, because I have seen a complete transformation of this entire university, and you've been a huge part of it as a family. And I do appreciate that, because this is my city.
And there's more good to come. This is only phase one.
Yeah, we're not done.
There's a couple more. There's a couple more phases to this
Can you tell me?
Oh yeah, no, it's all.
Well, the phases are public.
Yeah, I know the phases are public, but is there anything like?
Well, that's they're working one more donation on the facility side for the one team lounge where football moved out. There's opening up a lounge for all athletics. And John Wildhack sold this back in the beginning. They're trying to integrate all the sports so it does become a one university, a one complex, a one team. And I met with a woman who's consulting, Heather Like, who came from Pittsburgh. And she said Pittsburgh's just broken up. There are people scattered everywhere. And one of the things that she was most impressed about when she just came here, 4 days ago, she says, you got everything integrated into one facility, and your sports teams are all together and like a family, as opposed to one group in this building, one group in that building, and completely disjointed. So from going back to John Wildhack, he's accomplished one major piece of getting athletics integrated into one place.
In a very, very unpredictable time in athletics, which is a whole layer of another challenge.
Well,
so.
Thank goodness you didn't open up the NIL topic, or we'll be here in the morning still talking.
Well, I had two final points, and
it's NIL.
And one of them was
NIL.
Was because, well, you kind of addressed it when you were speaking off the cuff here when we opened this performance center, in the sense of, everything that's done here with the performance center is a step toward that, but we still need that NIL initiative to work and be consistent.
So the House settlement went into effect July 1, which is well documented, and will attempt to put some sanity around the NIL world. The university will have what they call a rev share commitment that contribute to the athletics, the individual athletes, excuse me. The NIL then goes through a clearinghouse where all the NIL deals have to be reviewed for value.
Yeah.
Meaning, if I'm the car dealer and I want one of the offensive linemen to come in and promote for me, now if I give them a $20 million NIL deal, and they're looking at all the other linemen saying, well, best NIL deal for any offensive lineman, $25 million or $25,000, it's not going to go. So that those crazy numbers should start to come back in line with something that's a little more reasonable. Now, my friendly amendment is it is college athletics, so who knows what the next lawsuit is or crazy twist of something that pushes this thing back into chaos. But for the moment,
Yeah. They're trying to put a fence around the horses.
right.
Which
For the moment, it actually looks reasonable.
Yeah. So my final point is something that we do on the show called Rapid Fire. It allows us an opportunity to talk about any topic off the cuff, and we all get to put each other on the hot seat. So we're going to do a round robin. So Laura, you get to put John on the hot seat first. You can ask him anything in the world, and he has to answer it.
Oh gosh.
Do you remember your anniversary date?
Yes. One, 12, 13.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's
Yeah.
not the question, but I just want to make sure.
Oh, but listen, I got it right though.
You did get it right.
I always
I
start.
struggled, but I got it.
You got it.
You get those off the cuff, on the spot questions like that. It could have cost me a bit of anxiety.
It's like I never know when John's birthday is. I'm like, it's 23rd or the 24th, 23rd.
So you notice I was going to your birthday. It's November, and it's like, no, that's your birthday.
I always get everyone together to celebrate John's birthday a week before it actually is, so I don't have to get pinned down on what the actual day is. I'm like, it's the 23rd or the 24th. Okay, so it's still my turn.
It's your turn to ask him. I was trying to protect him before you asked him.
You're trying to throw me.
Trying to be your lineman.
You're trying to throw me under the buses.
I was trying to take a question off the table. That's what I was trying to do. All you had to say was yes. You didn't have to say it.
What was the most calories consumed when you were playing in a day?
Okay, not a day. Well, yes, it is a day. So when I was here,
or a week.
No,
whatever.
so the study went over, I think it was about a 10-day period. Dr. Short was a nutrition teacher, and she liked to do studies comparing the caloric intake of a football player versus a wrestler. Okay. And I will answer the question, but you need to know my younger brother was at Cornell University taking a nutrition class and was writing a paper and calls me up and says, hey, John, I found this paper by Dr. Short in the Journal of American Medical Association. He said, I want to read this to you. For lunch, this one football player had a sandwich with 2 slices of ham, 2 slices of turkey, 2 slices of roast beef, 2 slices of provolone cheese, 2 slices of cheddar cheese on a large roll. Yeah. And you're the only guy in the world that ever put 2 slices of every cold cut you could find on one sandwich. He goes, that's you, right? He says, yeah. He goes, oh my God, you're eating 13,000 calories a day. So the answer is 13,000.
I didn't even count like beer calories.
No, that did count beer,
okay,
calories.
13,000.
13,000. The little piece of that whole thing, you'd think, I went by the picture down in the lobby. I was pretty big, but I wasn't gaining weight. It was during the season while I was practicing, and they practiced you hard enough, you could burn 13,000 calories a day. Now, the good news is I was maintaining my weight. Yeah. But I wasn't even getting
all right, weight. Fran, I guess that's your new challenge. Can you get people to burn 13,000 calories?
Well, actually, I think they're trying to get Byron Washington, who is up there, what was he, 3-something? They got him down 40 pounds, and but you got to remember, I was trying to maintain 280, not 340. So
that's true. So, all right, John, you can ask me a question.
So when you first came into the athletic facility, the op center, what was the most impressive thing you saw?
That's a good question. I
could do your job, actually.
I would say the pool, because I feel like I was born in Atlantis. So I'm gonna say,
The rehab pool.
yeah, the rehab
Yeah,
pools are
yeah.
incredible. I would also say that seeing the years of what the food was here to what it is now, they had all the food out for the families and for recruits, and we weren't allowed to eat it. But I had to challenge myself to not touch the food that is in this wonderful center now.
So you bring up an interesting point because when I was here, I graduated in 1982. The food quality was not that great. So one would logically ask, what would you have to eat to actually get to
To
13,000 calories in one day?
Yeah, yeah. No, here there's a lot of things. I think the recovery pools are incredible, and I would probably say the thing that stuck out to me was the fact that every position had their own room, which I thought was really valuable.
So your listeners will appreciate this. Got to sit through one of the offensive line meetings the other day. I went into the offensive line meeting room, and when I played, I was a big offensive guard at 285. You know, I'm almost a small tackle, big offensive guard. I walked into that room. If you're not 300 plus,
Hmm.
you're sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, needless to say, the room looks large,
yeah.
but when it's full of our offensive line today,
It's tiny.
it does not look that large.
They take up the space well.
Yeah, they fill that room.
All
So
right. Laura, my question to you, since we're talking about food, I have my own ice cream at Carvel DeWitt, and I have my own sandwich at Mother's Cupboard. If you could create a dish that is the Laura Lally, what would be on it?
Does it have to be buffalo themed or?
Could be anything.
whatever you want.
Um, definitely have to be something with braised short ribs.
Okay.
Like, tell them you've got
So we've got a family recipe, and we call them the Lally Love Bombs.
Okay.
And these things are killers. They're so good, but they're not lightweight. So it's my favorite thing to make, and I make them all the time for the kids and for anybody that basically, we own a horse farm, and
Yeah.
we've got 40 horses, and people that work in the farm all day long. You bring them any food, they're gonna wolf it down. But these things are great. So
So you'd
I
want a
braise
Lally
them.
love. You want a Lally
Love
bomb.
bombs. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Well, we get to spin back around here, so Laura, you get to ask me a question.
Okay, so you said you're not a Bills fan.
I'm a
you're
Bills sympathizer.
Okay, so you have to pick a quarterback, Jim Kelly or Josh Allen.
That's ridiculous. My mom met Jim. She used to work with Jim Kelly's brother, and so she got me Jim Kelly's autograph back in the day, and I still have it. And I found it when I was going through everything, so it's back in my studio. But it was on my dresser growing up as a kid. I have a ton of respect for Jim Kelly. It's also how I learned about autism with his son being autistic. I would say, as much as I love Jim Kelly, I really want to see Josh get a ring. And so I'm going to lean on Josh a little bit because he can run. And I went to a Jacksonville game where Jacksonville got in a fight in the end zone that I was at. They got in a fight with the Bills in that game, which was wonderful. Leonard Fournette is a running back, and he's hitting a helmet with his hands like a smart person. But in that game, Josh Allen rushed 8 carries, 100 yards. And I fell in love with his arm at Wyoming when I was looking at his film going into the draft. I did not know he could run. So I'm going to lean on Josh because he's multifaceted a little bit more than Jim. And I really, really, within the next 3 years, maybe this year, would like to see Buffalo do it.
I think
We
everybody's
would all
hoping
like
for
to see
that.
Buffalo do it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to say Jim Kelly just for the.
I'm going to say Jim Kelly just
Okay.
because
I'm
we're
old
older than you.
school,
We're
I know.
old school.
It's-
We remember
I
the
only
Andre
say
Reed
because
days.
he can run, yeah. Only because Josh he's more of a runner.
Yeah, I mean, the kids, the young kids love Josh
I
Allen.
know,
but
but it's
us
hard
old
to get
timers
Jim
are still Jim Kelly. When Jim Kelly came to
Jim
Buffalo,
Kelly is as gritty
he
as
changed it.
Josh Allen was.
changed
Well, I grew
everything.
up spoiled. I grew up with Brett Favre, Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jim Kelly. Like I had the lot.
Two
Andre
great
Reed,
quarterbacks.
Bruce
Yeah.
Smith, Daryl Talley,
Thurman Thomas. Yeah.
Thurman Thomas. Yeah.
All right. So, John, my question to you.
Yes,
Okay. If you were blocking for me,
I
And
do.
we-
I do the same
and
as
we
I
could
did for
and we
Joe
could go
Morris.
back in time, how many yards do you think I could get?
Oof. Well, only if he climbed on my back, I guess.
Now, in high school, they wanted me to play running back, but they wanted me to gain 100 pounds. And I remember looking at my body going, where am I going to put it? Maurice Jones-Drew, same height as I am, and he is 100 pounds more than me. And I
Yeah.
looked at his body,
Yeah.
and I went, oh, I would have looked like a tombstone. But he was very light on his feet.
Yeah.
But if we could go back in time, I guess my question to you is what
Depends
position?
which team we're playing.
Okay.
What position? Oh, you'd
What
have
position
to,
would I be?
I'd say field goal kicker.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Don't do that
I'll
to
take
him.
it. I used to be able to kick. I think I would be a good corner. I think I would be a good corner.
Hey, by the way,
Don't
I,
take that
I have
harassment
I
from
have a
him,
great
Dan.
sense of humor, just
There
for
you
the
go.
record.
All right, John. So
No, I'll tell you that with Joe Morris as a running back, you couldn't. We couldn't have been happier. As I'll never forget. My dad was at one of the games, and on Sunday you'd all go down at the training area getting thumbs fixed or whatever was broken at the time.
Yeah.
And my dad comes walking in. He looks. He says, "Is that Joe Morris?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "He doesn't have an ounce of body fat. He could be a boxer." I said, "Yeah, also a great running back." Yeah. So yeah,
And he's an incredible human being.
Yeah.
We love him.
yeah,
Well, now that you've
so your running back was probably not going to be my
well,
pick.
now that you've done that to me on camera, I have some questions from social media. No, I'm kidding.
We love social media questions.
John, you're
I can answer almost anything, or from my corporate world, I can not answer almost
Yes.
anything. So
Fair enough. Field goal kicker, I'll take it. So I made the team.
yeah, listen,
all
you're
right.
on the field. So
I'm on the field. All right, Fran. So the final question of our conversation is you getting to ask your wife anything you want.
So, since we've come to the city of Syracuse frequently, what is, because we're still going to stick with the food theme here. What is your favorite restaurant when we come into town?
Okay, this is a lot of fun because John and I love
We
food.
won't.
Love to go
We
eat.
won't talk
Love
about
food.
where we ate last night because
Yeah.
that did not fall into a favorite restaurant category.
So we like to walk wherever we go because for some, you want to at least feel like you're participating in burning calories. But we go to Kitty Hoynes a lot. So I would say for casual, Kitty Hoynes. We go to Lemongrass all the time. We go to Drumlin's constantly because the food's really good. And I think we go to Prime Steakhouse. We've gone to a bunch of times and had a great experience.
Yeah, but that's four. I think the
have to pick a
question was,
favorite?
what's the favorite, right? The favorite would be one.
Well, see, you made me the kicker.
Okay.
She punted on that.
I'm going to go with Drumlin's because I love the
Okay.
people over there, and we
All right.
always go with folks that we haven't seen in a while, and we meet them there, and you can have a
So-
big group or small
So
group.
you clarify Drumlin's for lunch.
Drumlin's
have-
for lunch, and I'm going to say, because I'm a beer and
Obi-
cheeseburger girl, and I'm gonna
Okay,
go with Kitty Hoynes because I can get a beer and a cheeseburger.
Okay. I have been to both. Kitty Hoynes has some good stuff. They have some good things to offer. Drumlin's is just, it's a nice experience. I just like Drumlin's.
I mean,
in and of itself.
what you see is what you get. I'm usually in a baseball cap, and I'm usually in shorts and a t-shirt, and so is John. I mean, when you said, "Should I wear a suit today?"
Yeah, I did.
I had to keep from laughing
It
because
was
I'm like, I
90
don't know
degrees.
the last time John had to wear a sport coat. He and Fran were talking about, hey, you can wear a tie at this ribbon cutting.
No, that was the that was the NIL golf
Oh
outing.
yeah, the NIL golf outing. So
And athletics was trying to convince us to wear a sports coat
Right.
and tie. So I called Fran. I said, Fran, you wear a sports coat and tie to this thing? He goes, no, what are you wearing? I said, how about a golf shirt? He goes, yeah, a golf shirt's perfect.
The struggle is to make sure that John actually matches, right? So like every football game, I wear the same shirt because that's my lucky shirt. I wear the same rugby shirt every.
You are a
every football
true
game.
Buffalonian in the fact that you have to have that.
Exactly, I have a whole
Yeah.
ritual.
Yes.
But John, John will wear like plaid shorts and a polka dot shirt and something camo. And I'm like, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I fell in love with John because he's his own man. He does not fit into the box that everyone thinks that he should fit in. They think, hugely successful businessman, he should be this way, but he is completely his own man, and I love that.
That comes out of the offensive guard side.
Yeah, he really doesn't give
Offensive linemen really don't
two shakes
care,
about what people think.
So
Well, and what I like is Fran and I had the same conversation with you. What are you going to wear to this event that we're doing? So, Fran, we both chose golf shirts, which I love. But for John Lally, for Laura Lally, for the Lally Foundation, and of course for everything that you've done to give back to the community of Syracuse, New York, upstate New York, central New York, and of course to Syracuse University, I want to say thank you for being here on Wake Up Call for this special today. And I just appreciate the fact that we finally got to do this. The last time you and I spoke was years ago for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And now we got to actually unpack a lot of the journey.
I'm coming out of my shell. It's the new me.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I like off the cuff. Like I said, there's no notebooks here. So thank you, John, and thank you, Laura.
Thank you. And when we were talking, we got off the phone the one day, and I called John because I was at a horse show. And John said, how'd it go? You know, should we do this? Should we sit down with him and do it? Should I do this interview? And I'm like, I love this guy. And we talked for 2 hours.
We did. We did. We talked for an hour. She landed. We talked for another hour. And all I said was, enjoy Tennessee because I would love to be there. So,
yeah. So we're glad that we did it. It was a lot of fun. This was nerve-wracking.
Well, it's great being in the house.
It's great being in the house. Nobody's here this week, but
no
it's
coaches.
Great to be here.
Players are still here. Yeah. Coaches have a couple days off.
Yeah. Well, it's coming off a 4th of July weekend, and
Fran does work those guys pretty hard, just for the record.
And Fran, just so you know, my shirt, laundry, and anything that's in your office was completely placed there by accident. I had no part. I was not in there.
So, Fran, just so you know, where's number 66? We need to get an upgrade to the recruiting room. This is all low number players. We want to show some love for the offensive linemen, please.
Dan, what a lot of people don't know is that I am way faster in a wind sprint than John is. I can outrun John.
Listen, I'm in a wheelchair at this point. Are you kidding?
John
For
has
how many
speed,
years have you been able to outrun him?
Years. I just smoke him. He can't even touch me.
Oh, God, now it's going to deteriorate.
Well, with that being said, I love that in the wind sprint. And why I said corner for me is because I can do back pedals pretty well. And Julian Wiggum, who played for Syracuse, he goes, I think you could probably do better than me right now. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And as we always say on this show, God bless, no stress, do your best. Have a wonderful day. Syracuse, you know we love and appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.